Good afternoon, bon après-midi. Bienvenue and welcome to the National Managers Community Managers Connect virtual talks for June 24th, 2021. I'm Teresa Martin and I'm the regional lead for the BC Yukon region. S'il vous plaît, notez que cet événement est enregistré. Please note that our event today will be recorded and a YouTube video link will be made available following our session. We ask that you please click your screens to mute your microphone and turn off your camera. S'il vous plaît, cliquez sur votre écran pour désactiver votre microphone et éteindre votre caméra. As we start our day, I ask that we all take a moment to reflect on the land on which we live, work, and play. For myself, I am fortunate to be on the traditional and unceded territories of the Kwantlen, Katsi, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Squamish, and Musqueam nations. I am grateful for their ongoing stewardship of these lands. Please take a moment to consider the lands on which you live, work, and play. Je vous invite à prendre un instant pour réfléchir au territoire sur lequel vous vous trouvez, là où vous vivez, où vous travaillez et où vous jouez. J'aimerais reconnaître que je suis située sur le territoire traditionnel et non cédé des nations Kwantlen, Katsi, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, Squamish, and Musqueam. Je suis reconnaissant de leur intendance de ces terres. Virtual talks are just one of the several ways that the NMC is working to engage over 40,000 managers and aspiring leaders across the country on topics of importance to you. Les conversations virtuelles est un des multiples moyens de la CNG pour rejoindre plus de 45 000 gestionnaires et aspirants gestionnaires à travers le pays et couvrant les différents sujets qui vous sont importants. For today's session, we will be discussing Indigenous Mentorship Initiative with our special guests, Jared Zolondek and Catherine Lemire from the Canada Revenue Agency. And we're hosted today by Lisbeth Savard, our NMC Regional Lead for the Prairies and the Northwest Territories. Merci à tous et toutes de vous joindre à nous pour cette importante discussion sur l'initiative de mentorat des employés autochtones. La discussion d'aujourd'hui se tiendra dans les deux langues officielles. Soyez à l'aise d'utiliser votre langue officielle de préférence. Nous tenons à créer un climat de sécurité linguistique, alors vous pouvez choisir d'utiliser votre deuxième langue officielle si c'est votre préférence aujourd'hui. The Managers Connect virtual talks are bilingual. Feel free to use a language of your choice in an atmosphere of linguistic security, your first or second official language. I know we are all looking forward to an engaging session today, so without further delay, here are Lisbeth, Jared, and Catherine.
Merci, Teresa. It's my pleasure to be hosting the Indigenous Mentorship Initiative this morning. So in 2019, the Indigenous Mentoring Initiative won a Public Service Award of Excellence. So I have the pleasure today to speak with Jared Zolondek, Chair of the Indigenous Mentoring Initiative, and Catherine Lemire, ancienne participante du programme et coprésidente du réseau des employés autochtones à l'Agence du revenu du Canada pour parler de cette initiative. June is the National Indigenous History Month, a time for all Canadians, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, and newcomers to reflect upon and learn the history, sacrifices, cultures, contributions, and strengths of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. This year, National Indigenous History Month is dedicated to the missing children, the families left behind, and the survivors of residential schools. So I'd like to start off with a bit of an icebreaker question. So I'd like to know, Catherine and Jared, what is your favorite book or a book recommendation on an Indigenous topic? Donc, quel est votre livre préféré qui parle d'un sujet qui touche les Autochtones? So who would like to start? Jared, I see you're off mute, so I'll get you to start.
Yeah, so one of the books that I would recommend, it's a kid's book, but it's referred to as So When We Were Alone. So it does talk about the residential schools. So although it is a kid's book, it does give a very powerful message about what Indigenous peoples have experienced throughout Canada's history.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds like quite an interesting book. And I know my children had brought back one that was called I Am Not a Number, which was another children's book about, residential schools. And it was interesting because at the end of it, it had kind of a history and more of an adult kind of focused version so that you could actually kind of give some context for the children and the book. So it was quite good. Yeah, children's books are a good place to start. Donc, Catherine, toi de ton côté, qu'est-ce que tu aurais recommandé?
OK. Eh bien, j'ai 2 livres à vous recommander aujourd'hui. Le premier, c'est un titre en anglais qui s'appelle Clearing the Plains, Disease, Politics of Starvation and the Loss of Aboriginal Life par James Daschuk. C'est un livre qui explique vraiment l'historique pré-colonisation et post-colonisation et des effets. Alors, c'est un très bon livre historique que je recommande à tous les Canadiens. Et le second titre, c'est un roman qui a été écrit par une métisse de la Saskatchewan, Maria Campbell, et c'est un livre très séminal qu'elle a écrit en...
Oops, I think Catherine froze there for a minute.
No.
Okay, so we'll just let the internet kind of do its thing, and we'll get back to her when she's unfrozen. As an aside, I will get those titles from both Catherine and Jared, and I'll include them in the email to all participants, so you'll have those references as well. Okay, so the Indigenous Mentorship Initiative was launched as a pilot in October of 2016, and it was so successful that it was rolled out nationally in February of 2017. Donc, en 2019, l'initiative a remporté un prix d'excellence de la fonction publique. So, Jared, as one of the now 3 co-chairs for the IMI, or the Indigenous Mentoring Initiative, I'd like to start off with some questions for you. So can you explain what prompted the creation of the Indigenous Mentorship Initiative, and why was this pilot launched in the Prairies?
So I'm going to take you back about 5 years or so. So I'm going to throw some stats at you to kind of give an idea of kind of how this came about. So in 2016, CRA had roughly about 42,000 employees. And of that, 1,300 of them had self-identified as being Indigenous. So Indigenous included First Nations, Métis, or Inuit. So CRA was hiring Indigenous employees at a rate of about 1% per year, but they were losing about 3% each year. So they could tell that there was an issue there. Another thing that came up was the CRA Public Service Employee Survey had been conducted, and in 23% of Indigenous employees had identified that they experienced discrimination within the past 2 years, and 35% had experienced harassment. So there was also a strong commentary from the Indigenous employees that they were lacking opportunities in developing themselves. So with this, Stan Morin is from the Saskatchewan province, and he worked with the Employment Equity and Diversity Division to come up with this idea for the IMI, or the Indigenous Mentorship Initiative. So the thought was that by creating a mentoring relationship, they could re-engage the Indigenous employee to help with their career. So through discussions, they would develop their skills, learn more opportunities, receive guidance, and assist them on how to prepare for any opportunities that they come across. And on the flip side, the mentor gains the satisfaction of sharing their experience, as well as to be in a position to learn about Indigenous viewpoints. So as a result of this relationship, so CRA was looking to create an inclusive, respectful work environment for its Indigenous employees and establish a sense of community. So the Indigenous employees would engage with the mentors to achieve their personal development, and the mentors would learn about the Indigenous points of view and gain increased cultural awareness. So together, this would create a positive workplace that would enhance retention and recruitment, with benefiting the agency.
Yeah, wow, that's quite the initiative. So how exactly does the program work? So that's kind of the history of it. And so, now that it's been in existence for about 5 years, what are some of the best practices that you've learned along the way as well?
So the program aims to run for a 12-month rotation, or a 12-month basis. So call-outs are done to basically the Western region, so Western including BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba. and it would be asking for people to volunteer, to request to be in the program, to either be a mentee or a mentor. For mentees, they are required to self-identify as Indigenous if they wish to partake. With that, there's a survey that's sent out for anybody that may be interested. So mentees are required to identify some goals they're looking to achieve, and as well as score themselves on a variety of topics which they feel that they would be interested in or they would be looking to improve. And on the other side, mentors would self-assess themselves to basically outline their sets of skills to what they feel that they are good with. And then the pairings between the mentee and mentor would be a combination of what the mentees are looking to gain, as well as their the goals that they're looking to achieve, and what the mentors consider themselves strong in. So you kind of take both, you mash them together, and you kind of try to pair as best you can. So the role of the IMI is kind of a vehicle to guide the pairings to get together and to complete the goals that have been established. So it's basically a support system for the mentees and the mentors. So there's a variety of things that we do to help support the relationships. The most popular one, or the most requested one that we've have over the years, is we do video conferences with senior management. So what we do is we reach out to various senior managers across the Western region, and we ask if they would be interested in speaking to the mentees and mentors to kind of give some background or some insight on how they got to where they are, some things to consider, maybe what the mentees could do to help develop themselves, maybe some things that they never thought of. But a big thing is it gives the opportunity for mentees to speak to senior management that maybe they never thought they could speak to. We can bring in directors from various areas. We can bring in, again, senior management from wherever, and a person involved in the initiative may never get that opportunity to speak, and here it gives them a great opportunity to ask those questions and talk to somebody that maybe started from the bottom and worked their way up. So that is very requested amongst the program. So, and they seem to go over very well. Some of the things that we've kind of learned along the way, some things too that we've found. So pairings is always an interesting bit because we're doing our best to put the best people together so the program can succeed. So along the way, we've developed a matrix to assist in doing that. And some of the things that that we found is we're really trying to build on that community field. So again, networking plays a large part within the agency. So if you have a bunch of mentees together, let's say from a bunch of different areas, it gives them another opportunity to meet people amongst the agency that maybe they would never have that opportunity to. So we're always striving to build that sense of community within the Indigenous Mentoring Initiative. And another thing that we've kind of learned along the way is the gender-specific questions. So it was identified early on in the program that some people would like to be, let's say a female would want it to be paired up with a female, or vice versa, or however you want to work it. But now with our environment, it gets tricky to ask those questions because, again, we're trying to be as inclusive as we can. So we've had to strip out some of those really specific questions out of our survey and kind of leave them more open, but still give the people the opportunity, if they identify something that they're looking for, that hopefully we can hit that for them.
So, wow, that's quite the opportunity to be able to connect with other Indigenous employees and senior leaders. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that must be a real draw for people to participate. So I know that you've been a co-chair for I think a couple of years now. So what made you want to get involved in the program? And yeah, any other lessons or learning that you learned along the way as the co-chair?
Mm-hmm. So I was a mentee in the program myself. So I was a mentee in 2017. So that ran into 2018, which then I was approached after if I would be interested in taking over one of the co-chair roles. So I'm one of a couple people on the team. So I have a couple people that I work with, and together we all do great work. It would be a large task to take it on yourself. So I'm grateful for the these other co-chairs and people on the committee that are able to help. So I was approached in 2018. Of course, I was a little lenient on taking it, right? It's a big responsibility and it's kind of a new world to me. But actually my mentor at the time had really pushed me to take that leap. So, and I'm thankful for that. She was very supportive of me. You know, it always offered that assistance. And even after, with the program, it's a 12-month program, as I mentioned, and it's technically it stops after the 12 months, but it doesn't have to, right? If the mentee and the mentor want to continue after that 12-month relationship, that's awesome. And then again, you just built those relationships. So my mentor, I'm still friends with it. Very great support that I get. So if I do have any questions, I'm always able to bounce off of her. So she pushed me to take that opportunity to help further develop myself, my portfolio, so I can get where I wanted to be based on the goals that I had set out. So with regards to the IMI, after the 12 months is done, we try not to just kind of say, cut them and you know, and away they go. We want to continue to support them throughout their career. So we try to involve them where we can with other opportunities that might arise. So some of the things that the Canada Revenue Agency continues to do is called the Indigenous Student Employment Program, or ISEP. Another one being the Buddy Program. So what we do is, let's say you get Indigenous students coming in, they don't know the agency, they may feel uncomfortable, so we reach out to past IMI participants, the mentees, to see if they would be willing to be a buddy for them, right? Someone they can talk to, the student can talk to, they can reach out, someone maybe that's been in their shoes before. So yeah, again, opportunities for the mentees, we're looking to continually include them, so again, they feel part of the greater picture. And another one of those opportunities is becoming the co-chair for the IMI. So the idea is that the co-chair role, like the role that I'm in, would be rotated on, let's say, a 2-year basis. So eventually I will step down and I will give one of the mentees an opportunity, if they're willing to take it, to, you know, continue the program and take it where they want to. So it's the program is great because it gives a lot, and it also gives some opportunities to people.
Yeah. Oh, neat. That's quite the opportunity for employees to be able to have all of those supports. I think that's wonderful. So do you have, like, are you mentoring someone? Are you going to kind of encourage them to take on the role?
Well, so myself, I'm not currently a mentor. I'm just one of the co-chairs. I've considered being a mentor eventually, maybe when I step down from being one of the co-chairs. Again, it's one of those things that you don't really know if you're going to be good at, but sometimes you just kind of have to take that leap. One of the biggest things that I've gained from being in this co-chair role was because again, video conferences is a big thing. So as one of the co-chairs, you know, you need to host it. You're going to need to talk to the senior management. You got to talk to a lot of people. So getting comfortable speaking is one of the things that has really helped me grow within this role, as well as dealing with the unknowns and but having the courage to explore them. So myself, I try to do the best I can to have all my tools available at hand. So when I jump into something, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm getting into, but sometimes that's not always available to you. And sometimes people will shy away from that. So having an opportunity to be in this co-chair role has helped me gain that confidence to jump in and roll with it and see what happens.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think it's always good to stretch ourselves, right? Because we don't know what we can do until we try. So that's really a good opportunity. Thank you. So I know that Catherine was frozen for a bit. I don't know if she's back online. There she is. Perfect. Okay. Okay, so thank you, Jared. Donc, Catherine, toi, qu'est-ce qui t'a motivé de te joindre au programme de mentorat des employés autochtones?
Eh bien, mon chef d'équipe à ce moment-là, c'était Stan Morin qui avait conçu cette initiative de mentorat. Et puis, il m'a fortement encouragée de joindre le programme. Et je vous contacte aujourd'hui du traité 6, c'est de la patrie des Métis ici en Saskatchewan. Alors, c'est la région des Prairies qui a piloté cette initiative. Alors, j'ai fait partie de ce programme dès le début. Alors, j'ai beaucoup d'encouragement et je suis contente parce que sinon, j'aurais peut-être pas pensé à joindre l'initiative de mentorat.
Oh, nice. I didn't realize Stan Morin was your team leader, so that worked out well, right? No pressure. OK. So, Catherine, comme on dit en anglais, full disclosure. Toi et moi, on avait été jumelés comme mentor et mentoré je pense que c'était en 2018, je me souviens plus, là, peut-être que c'était avant ça. Donc, normalement, les jumelages se faisaient dans la même ville, mais dans notre cas, nous étions dans 2 villes séparées. Donc, toi à Saskatoon, moi à Winnipeg. Ce qui fait en sorte qu'on ne s'est jamais rencontrés en personne. So thanks to the magic of technology, because Catherine and I were matched up, I was her mentor and she was my mentee. We actually had never even seen each other on video until like maybe last week or so, because we were speaking on the phone. This was all pre-COVID stuff, right? So yeah, I'm so excited to have you here today. So now you're one of the co-chairs for the Indigenous Employee Network for the Western region at the CRA, along with your day-to-day regular duties, of course. Donc, quand tu as été participante, qu'est-ce que tu en as retiré? Puis qu'est-ce que tu aurais comme conseil pour des gestionnaires qui aimeraient créer un programme semblable dans leur équipe ou dans leur ministère?
Comme Jared l'a souligné, on avait le droit de faire des demandes spéciales aussi de ce qu'on recherchait d'un mentor et j'avais spécifié que je voulais un mentor bilingue, francophone. Alors, c'est pour ça qu'on a été jumelés ensemble. Et je crois que c'est bien d'offrir des deux bords, du mentoré aussi, du mentor, de faire ses spécifications pour avoir le meilleur match. Je crois que ça marche bien, alors c'est ça que je suggérerais aussi au gestionnaire. Et puis, je pense que c'est ça, c'est juste d'avoir un bon partenariat, une bonne communication. Et puis, maintenant, plus que jamais, on a ces plateformes pour connecter. Et je crois que c'est même plus important d'avoir ce programme de mentorat parce qu'on se sent tous isolés. On travaille plus ensemble au bureau. On a besoin un peu plus d'appui, je dirais, personnel et aussi professionnel. Alors, je crois que c'est un bon modèle d'avoir ce questionnaire des deux participants au début aussi. Je crois que ça a très bien marché.
Okay, perfect. So, Catherine was saying how it's helpful to have that questionnaire to do the matching at the beginning. So that's good. That's good to know. Donc, pourquoi, comme à titre d'employé autochtone, pourquoi est-ce qu'un programme comme celui-ci c'est important pour les employés autochtones? Qu'est-ce que tu dirais que ça rapporte?
Je dirais que c'est très important. J'ai joint l'Agence du revenu en 2011 et avant ça, j'avais travaillé pour Patrimoine canadien pendant 2 ans. Et j'ai remarqué qu'en joignant l'Agence Revenu du Canada, qu'il y avait environ plus de 300 employés à Saskatoon et on n'était que quelques employés autochtones. Et je me suis sentie comme on n'avait pas vraiment de communauté. On n'avait pas de comité. Notre comité a cessé d'exister quand j'ai joint. Alors, je me sentais très seule. Il n'y avait pas beaucoup de représentation d'employés autochtones au niveau de la gestion non plus. Puis je pense que j'aurais aimé voir ça dans mon département. Alors, c'était ça, il n'y avait pas vraiment de sens d'appartenance. C'est pour ça que ce programme de mentorat m'a beaucoup aidé. Ça a créé une communauté, même si les mentors ne sont pas nécessairement autochtones, c'est des alliés ou c'est des gens ouverts d'esprit et ouverts. Alors, ça m'était très utile de communiquer avec toi, Lisbeth, parce que ça formait comme une amitié au sein du travail et je pouvais tout te dire, je me sentais très confortable de te parler au niveau personnel et professionnel. Alors, c'était très bien d'avoir une personne là comme un guide, une amie, quelqu'un avec qui je pouvais me confier. J'ai vraiment apprécié et c'est pour ça qu'on est toujours en contact et qu'on est devenus amis Facebook aussi après ça. C'était très bien. Alors, merci beaucoup pour le support.
Oh, ben, ça fait plaisir. Oh, tu me touches le cœur, là. Merci. Ça me fait plaisir. So I think there's a big component to kind of breaking isolation and making people, and Indigenous employees in particular, making them feel connected. You also mentioned that it's important to see, Indigenous people in management positions as well. And I think that's really important to have a good representation and lots of diversity in those ranks as well. So those are excellent points. Donc, tu as touché un petit peu à cette question-ci, mais est-ce que tu pourrais parler un petit peu au sujet des défis auxquels les employés autochtones sont confrontés en milieu de travail?
Oui, en tant que coprésidente du réseau des employés autochtones à l'agence, j'ai beaucoup de commentaires que les processus de recrutement sont peut-être pas appropriés pour les employés autochtones. Et je sais qu'aussi, même au niveau de la langue, comme l'anglais et du français, c'est un peu difficile pour les employés autochtones. Et comme j'avais mentionné dans la question avant, c'est vraiment un sens d'appartenance. Parce que je trouve que le gouvernement fédéral, c'est un différent système. Et c'est peut-être pas, c'est un peu difficile juste culturellement. C'est pour ça que la création des comités, comme le réseau des employés ou des initiatives, de mentorat, ou même le programme que Jared avait touché de Buddy pour les étudiants autochtones sont très nécessaires juste pour avoir un environnement sauf, familier aussi. Je trouve que c'est ça, il faut se trouver. Souvent, on commence une carrière et c'est dur de trouver sa place, juste du côté professionnel. Alors, du côté culturel aussi, c'est un autre défi au niveau de la communication, de la langue. Alors, c'est ça que je dirais qui sont les plus gros défis.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, government is a big machine. And so, yeah, it's hard to kind of get used to the culture of government in itself and then trying to kind of find your bearings, find your place culturally as well. So those are excellent points. Okay, so these are the end of the questions that I had. So I'll turn it over to Teresa to see if there's anything in the chat. The chat looks quite quiet for the moment, but we invite you to ask some questions. If you do have some questions, you can type them out in the chat in the language of your choice. Donc,
Thank you, Lisbeth, Jared, and Catherine. I really appreciated hearing about how this initiative created those connections and community as well, like just for folks who may not have otherwise met. And then, you both shared personal, experiences that you overcame to be able to participate, and the fact that, you succeeded and you stuck with it. It just, it's inspiring for others like myself. So thank you so much for bringing that personal experience here, as well as sort of the technical, because I'm assuming that other departments are also very interested in how you did this. And so let's move to the participants. And if anybody wants to ask a question, if you'd like to type it out, you can certainly use the chat. Otherwise, you can use the raise hand feature, which is in the top panel of your Teams function. And you can just raise your hand and I'll call on you. You can put yourself on camera or not, whatever you're comfortable with. So is there anybody who'd like to pose a question? I'm not seeing anything out there. My age of technical difficulties.
I think the question was along the lines of which departments currently participate in these types of initiatives. Do you know if you have any other departments that have asked you for your best practices or that wanted to raise something?
we've recently, one of the other co-chairs is located out of BC, and she has a contact within Service Canada, and they've recently reached out to us for some documentation. So it sounds like maybe that's something that they're interested in. So I'm not sure where they're going with it, but we've provided what we could to them, and they can take it from there. If they have any questions, all right, they can always reach out to us and we can help where we need.
Excellent. So we've got not a question, but a comment in the chat. The Western Territorial Region of Service Canada is currently developing an Indigenous Mentorship Program, so great, and it mirrors this amazing CRA program. We are so appreciative of CRA's generosity in sharing their tools and best practices. Well, that's lovely.
Perfect. Perfect.
Nice. I know for myself, when I came from PSPC before I came to the National Managers community, and there's a lot of work in British Columbia to connect with First Nations. There's actually some partnerships with the First Nations government model with the federal model. So there's certainly, it's time, well, it's past time for these types of activities to be brought to the forefront for sure. So one of the questions I had for you, Jared, is, was there when you started off as a co-chair, was there a specific time commitment? Like they said, you've got to do this for 2 years, or was it just, let's try this for a year, or like, what was that like for you?
So at the time it was a 2 year, so we're aiming for a 2-year rotation. So the first year would be where we just don't want to throw somebody in. So for the first year, I kind of had Stan as a support role in case I needed anything. So when we do find somebody who's willing to take the reins, for lack of a better words, right, I would obviously be there available to assist, and then their second year doing it, they would kind of be running the show solo, and then again we'll just continue that that rotation. So the idea was 2 years. The pandemic kind of threw a little wrench in that, so I'm running a little longer than the 2 years. But so the plan is for myself is to run it again this year, again with the other co-chairs, and then I'm probably looking for somebody to take over my role.
Nice, thank you. And Catherine, oh, sorry, go ahead, Lisbeth.
I was going to say, yeah, maybe we could go back to Catherine and she could share her second book, because I know it froze when she was sharing. So I would be really curious to know, what was your second book recommendation?
Sure, c'était Half-Breed de Maria Campbell, qui est sorti en 1973, mais ça vient tout justement d'être traduit en français pour la première fois pour plus de 50 ans. Alors, c'est sorti ce printemps et je vous suggère de le lire parce que c'est à propos du vécu d'une femme métisse de la Saskatchewan.
Oh, parfait. Merci.
So I do have a question for Catherine. Was there anything that you got out of this program that you weren't expecting?
Yeah, I didn't expect to keep a relationship with the mentor, because Lisbeth was my mentor. And we spoke on the phone every second week. You wrote an agreement with your mentor, like how often you wanted to meet and all that. And like Jared said, we could continue a relationship after the allocated months of the program. So we figured we'd still keep the calls, even if they were every second week, even just a month. Like, we kept the relationship going and we became Facebook friends. And just recently we met on video call for the first time, because we used to have phone calls all the time. But I knew, we followed each other on Facebook, but it was nice to actually make a connection through MS Teams. So, and that was a few years ago, so we're still in contact. So that's really great.
That is beautiful. Yeah.
It was really exciting. And it was funny to remember when you moved up to Yellowknife, and out of the blue, I get this call and it's 867. And I'm like, who's calling me from the north? And behold, it was Catherine. I'm like, hey.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really neat, because I think after our official or more formal mentorship, then we would just have these random conversations. And I think also, like, despite the fact that we were never able to meet in person, I think it was still kind of nice to not be kind of in the same office or not be in the same region, because I think there was more of that connection around, like, I I wasn't in the Saskatchewan office, so I didn't really know all of the cultural stuff. So I think there was an opportunity to speak a little bit more in confidence, right? Because I wasn't really involved in what was happening. So I think that to a certain extent played to our advantage as well. Right before I came to the NMC, I had a new mentee that spoke French, but unfortunately I wasn't able to finish the year because I came to the NMC and I wasn't able to continue. So if I can just speak on behalf of being a mentor, I really enjoyed the opportunity to do that. And, for me, I learned a lot, and I think there's a lot of value in just connecting with other people who work in the same department as you and just learning different things and, just kind of hearing about Catherine's reality, as an Indigenous person working for CRA, living in Saskatchewan, being Francophone as well. So, yeah, it's good. I learned a lot. So,
So I'll just ask if there are any more questions from the participants. Est-ce qu'il y a plus de questions? Nous voulons prendre le temps à ce moment, prendre le moment. Seize the moment. Okay, so in that case, I will just thank everyone for coming today and joining us. Everything that we shared today will definitely be helpful to all the public servants as we're trying to lead and keep our teams engaged through these very challenging times. There's a lot going on in the news, obviously, so just take care of ourselves and each other. Thank you. Merci, Catherine Lemire and Jared Zolondek for taking the time to talk about the Indigenous Mentorship Initiative today. And all my teammates here at the National Managers Community for coordinating the event and helping put this on. Je remercie également Catherine Lemire et Jared Zolondek d'avoir pris le temps de venir nous parler et tous mes coéquipiers de la CNG pour avoir coordonné cet événement. So we will be following up with an email after the event with the link for the YouTube video, and Lisbeth is going to put together the liste des livres. So have a wonderful day. Thank you, merci, and thank you for just being here with us. Have a great day. Until next time. À la prochaine.
Thank you so much.